I would say that's sort of how it is in Hawaii because there is not a whole lot of concerts here. I mean, on the mainland, living in Boston for a long time, I know what you mean. There are a lot of places there. It's, your choice is every night there's an arena show, there's a couple theater level shows, clubs. I mean, there's a lot of variety. Here, I seem, the way you described it, I'd almost feel this is a similar market. On an opposite level, when you're abroad, where have you felt, I mean, there are, like you pointed out, 20,000 people in Manila, your very first gig there. Are there reasons you think people connect with you guys? Is there something about your sound in certain places that you think draws people, or any kind of reason, or maybe hotbeds for Incubus?
I'll go out on a limb here, and this is definitely from my personal perspective, but I think the fact that the image of the band is this multicultural looking group of people, it's easier to relate to that. I think I know for me growing up, whenever there was a black guy in a band, it was somehow closer to something I could understand. And I think that, just having that spread of culture, Jose is Mexican American, and Chris and I are both mixed, black and white American, and Brandon and Mike, all these different cultures in the band. I think it looks like something that is easier to be a part of, as opposed to like, if a band came and it was a bunch of Russian guys in the band, you'd be like, the music might be cool, but it wouldn't be just so easy to say, these are relatable dudes, what is this all about, I think that maybe, I'll go out on a limb and say that might be a thing. And we also just try to do the best we can do and be grateful for the chances so we don't come off as arrogant or, ungrateful for the opportunity. It's kind of ridiculous what we get to do. So I think some of that may come through, but saying it makes me sound cocky, so I don't want to.
No, you don't sound cocky at all. And I would say the same thing about the Deftones on that visual thing and why they can cross, because when you go to see real heavy shows on this island, a lot of the time it brings out the real Caucasian group of folks in the audience, right? Like Tool, for example, it really looks like a military crowd. You go to the Deftones, thinking of what you just said about why maybe people in other countries are attracted to you guys, and they have a similar kind of presentation. The real mixed audience come to the show here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me as an individual, it affected me when I first heard Bad Brains music. I was like, this is really good. Then when I saw a photo of them, I couldn't believe it. It's like, these guys are making this music? These guys look like my uncles, And I felt a connection that it's unfortunate that color still plays so much of a role in how we think and how we feel, but it's undeniable that played a role in it,
And it made you feel welcome. I totally can understand that. One of my best buds was a black dude in Boston who was like still one of my very good friends, and we would talk so much about things like that and how you would feel more comfortable going into a place versus going into some other place. Is there something about, switching gears a little bit, I'm valuing your time, and I know you don't have like all afternoon to talk to me. Brendan O'Brien, when I think about your music, and it's sort of on the tip of the way it can appeal to a lot of different people, the way it can be really hard rock and melodic and appeal to hard rock and heavy kids, but then appeal to more like a hot AC, kind of a female audience. When you work with that guy in the studio, is there a certain kind of routine that makes him the special in-demand producer he is, that helps people's songs reach more folks in the end?
Absolutely. He's deep because he understands music better than most of the people I've ever met. He understands how to make anything happen. You can sit down with him and say, here's what I want it to be like. And he knows how to get there quickly with the least amount of stress. He also understands musicians better than most people I've ever met, where he can help you get your mind in the game when you're not in the game. And those two kind of things make it so that when you get with him, he's able to take you a little further than you thought you would be able to get, and that's what a producer should be like the ultimate enabler, but for like realistic goals. He's not caught up in the glamour of being in the industry or being a record producer. He's up until a few years ago, he didn't want anyone to take pictures of him. He didn't want any of that. None of that kind of recognition. It was all about like, let's do good work. Let's do good things. And he's just a really high IQ, really aware, in tune cat that helps people create. He told me a few months ago, He said when he was little and he was watching bands play on TV, he would see the lead singer in the spotlight shaking his hips, and he would see the guys behind him and see like the guitar player and say, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's making this happen. You know, I don't want to be the guy taking all the credit for it. I want to be the guy doing the work, you know. And that's kind of the type of person that he is. It's not about the credit as much as just about the creation.
Does he work on the arrangement of the songs too? Is it sort of like where he'll say, all right, you know what I think you guys ought to do? You ought to like do this for a little longer, and then then you cut to the bridge here. I mean, is he that involved?
He becomes another member when we start working. So we do most of the writing, the arranging, all of that sort of stuff, but he comes in and his opinion is actually a little more valuable than the five of ours when we're working, because we know each other. We know what this guy wants it to be hard, this guy wants it to be light, this guy wants this to... He comes in and he's kind of the principal. But he has some things he'll come in and he'll want to change everything. Like we should change the key, we should change the tempo, we should do all different stuff. And sometimes he'll come in with a song and be like, just move that C chord to a G chord. Try that once. Didn't like it? All right, go back to the C chord, song's done. It's the widest range of input, yeah. Where if something's not broke, he's not going to try to fix it. And if we're like, we get in our own heads and we can't see often what we're doing, what we're creating. It's very easy to be like,
center of the storm, center of the cyclone.
Yeah, and no idea what's going on in the outside. So he can see that. I mean, you look at the bands he's worked with, you look at the records he's made. It's obvious that he's around great music, you know, and after working with him, it's obvious that he is part of all that music, you know.
Yeah, he is, and that's why I wanted to, just curious, and you described it really well. I had that feeling. It was like, this guy has done so many records for so many people and found a way to get their sound to their audience, but also to a further audience. So that's cool that you have that response.
He's done all that, and he doesn't show up in videos, you know. He's not up in the video like, Incubus in the house, you know. There's no name dropping at the beginning of songs, you know. Incubus, Brendan O'Brien, what?
I dig that. Hey, you've been a real nice guy to sit down and talk with us. I appreciate it, and thanks for just sharing some time with us here in Hawaii.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast, man.
You're the man, Ben. Thanks.